Hi there Star Wars collectors, and welcome to another Bossk Bounty video. And in this video I just wanted to show you something that I've managed to pick up, which has been a Grail item for me ever since the first day that I decided to focus on the vintage Star Wars Bossk figure. Now of course my whole channel and website and everything is centered around Bossk. He was the figure that I played with the most as a kid, so naturally it's the one that I wanted to sort of focus on. And you'll see three in front of you here, and I do have one more to add. Now this is going to be the focus of the video, the Grail piece that I mentioned in the thumbnail. This is the most money that I've ever spent on one particular item in my collection. It is most definitely the most valuable item that I do have in my collection right now, and it is a true Grail in the sort of vintage collecting world, if you like. But I just want to show you quickly how I got to that point. Just going to show you these three others very quickly. So first off, on the left hand side here we have a 85 graded UKG no COO Bossk 1980. So he's just your standard Bossk. I bought him graded, I didn't send this one out to be graded. So he's an 85. So then I decided to upgrade to this one, which is the new style case with the weapon there, which looks very nice. And this one is a 90 by UKG. Figure got a 90, paint got a 90. Now this is the Hong Kong COO. Once again, 1980 Lucasfilm Limited. So he's a really lovely example. Really quite tough to get 90s with vintage Star Wars figures these days, especially ones like Bossk, which rely heavily on the paint. You know, often the paint comes away from the hands where you put the blaster in his hand, the toes often go, and more often than not it'll have like scratches and chips on his white back there, which is very common. But on this one, as you can see, he's absolutely gorgeous, really good, and this is one of my favorite pieces in my collection. Next up is something that I've managed to pick up fairly recently. Now this is the Spanish Poch Bossk, and it's called the Fat Lips Bossk. So if you compare it to this guy, you can really see the difference in paint on his lips. This one's almost got lipstick on. Some people do call him the Lipstick Bossk, and he got an 80, so that's pretty good for one of these. And you can see there's Star Wars Bossk PBP Fat Lips 1980 Lucasfilm no COO. So this is the Spanish PBP figure, and you can see a little tiny bit of paint loss on the toe there, and then if you move him around, there's those little chips that I was mentioning on his back. That's very common with a Bossk figure. You can imagine these figures being in people's toy boxes and what have you, and scraping against other figures and all that kind of stuff. So they're my three graded Bosks. I'm sure there's lots of other variants of COOs and things like that out there, but there is one missing from this collection, and I'm going to bring him in right now. And here he is. So this is a Poch, once again Spanish, but this is the Poch Spanish, and he recently came back from the graders. He got a 75, which is pretty decent for one of these. Figure 75, paint 75, and you can see the label there. It says Star Wars Bossk Poch Toxic Limbs 1980 Lucasfilm Limited, made in Hong Kong. And the difference between this one and the other Spanish one is that he obviously misses the fat lips, but look at the difference in the limbs there. This one is called the Toxic Limbs Bossk, often called the Pistachio Limbs as well, because they're like the colour of pistachio nut. And to have one of these in the collection is like a dream come true for me, from a collecting standpoint anyway, because these are super rare. I mean, if you were to ask the action figure grader, he'd probably tell you that there are maybe 20-25 of these in existence. So to have one of those, I'm very lucky, very fortunate. He's in amazing condition. He's got a bit of paint wear on his toe there, but the main thing about this guy is he had a bit of a weird thing going on his back there. He is almost melted on his back, and that's what's affected the grade, because the rest of him is absolutely gorgeous. And as I say, he got a 75, which probably is about right for UKG. I think if you were to get this graded by AFA, it'd probably come out with a 70. But he's got the new style case there with the weapons. And as I say, to have this Grail item in my Bossk collection is awesome. I had to move on a lot of other things in my collection in terms of like mint on cards and things like that to be able to afford this, because these things are not cheap whatsoever. So it's a big investment for me, the biggest investment I've ever made in Star Wars, and it's going to be an awesome piece to showcase in my collection, in my Bossk focus, until the day where perhaps, you know, this stuff gets passed down or whatever, and then, you know, my son or family can do whatever they like with it, but at least there's something that they can cash in, because awesome piece, the Toxic Limbs Bossk. I would love to see one of these carded in real life. I'd love to see somebody have one of those. I've got a feeling there might only be one in the world, which was used for the photo shoot for the Spanish PvP and Poch book. If you look in that book, there is a picture of a carded version. And I would imagine if that one ever came up for sale, it would go for thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds. Very, very expensive, I'm sure. But there you go then, guys. That is the Toxic Limbs or Pistachio Bossk. I just love the way his limbs are completely different to any other Bossk. Other Bosks out there do have the different limbs, so some have like a matte finish and a slightly lighter brown and what have you, but this is the only one that has these real bright green limbs there, and he is just beautiful. So happy to have him in the collection. He's going to go so good there with the other Spanish Bossk. Let me put him down there actually so you can see him. So that's the fat lips and the toxic limbs together, which is awesome. So there you go then, guys. That's it for this video. The blacked out Ewoks. My friend BOE said that this guy deserved his own video rather than being in a pickup video, and I tend to agree with him. So there you go. That is the biggest Grail in my collection, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Drop a like down below if you have, and we shall see you on the next one.